We will start now. Good evening. Hope all is well. My name is Jamila from Friends of Cancer Patients. Pink Caravan is a pan-Emirates initiative that raises awareness in the community. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome Dr. Evelyn, GP and lactation consultant, who will be speaking about breastfeeding and maternal health. I do request the attendees or the participants to leave their questions at the end of the session. And inshallah, at the end of the session also we will share the link for the attendees to get their certificates. So over to you, Dr. Evelyn. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam, Jamila. It's a pleasure to be here with you, with committed people who are interested in women's health, participating to the Pink Caravan. So we will begin. It's a view on breastfeeding which is not so much communicated than the view of breastfeeding and infants' health. Why is it not? I have an issue now, how I can, it's not moving.
Through the arrows you can put.
Yes, yes, down, okay. Sorry. Okay, so as I say, it's like a lot of communication has been done about breastfeeding being beneficial for babies. And what you see here is the logo for, the international logo for breastfeeding. But still, I will begin at a few slides about this because this is the main motor or the main aim or the main push for mothers, because they think of their babies first before thinking about themselves. So it's important for mothers to know that despite all the advertisement about artificial milk that you can find online nowadays a lot, nothing else is coming close to breast milk. And you have here a few, like an illustration of the main ingredients in mother's milk. Some have been omitted, like prebiotic and probiotics. And it's like the research is still ongoing and discovery is still ongoing. If you compare with what is inside formula, there is the main ingredients to make a baby gain weight, but all the living factors cannot be duplicated. So if you look, for example, if you look under the microscope, this is a drop of colostrum. What you see it's full of immune cells. When you look at a drop of artificial milk under the microscope, there is the main ingredients, but there is no living cells. Another way of, so it's not only food, it is targeted medicine. And the baby receives the antibodies that the mother has been doing in her blood against many diseases which she's exposed to, and then she protects her baby against exactly this pathogen. And we know now that including COVID-19, there is specific antibodies against COVID-19. So during this epidemic, some hospitals have decided to separate mothers and babies because they didn't take into account, into the balance, the importance of this protection. Now, there's not only like the living components. There is fat in formula, there is fat in breast milk, but they are not maybe the same quantity, but they're not the same quality. So it doesn't lead to the same brain composition. And we know the first 2 years of life are crucial for brain development. What you see on the right is a picture, drawing showing the growth of the brain matter during the first 2 years, the maturation. And in breast milk, there are unique ingredients like sphingomyelin, which will allow the full growth of the brain tissues. From a long time, we have known that all the studies looking at the IQ has seen a difference between babies who are breastfed and artificially fed. But some researchers wanted to see, can we see the difference? Can we see an image of the brain? So there is this technique of MRI while the babies are asleep. And they took different groups of babies, those who were exclusively breastfed for at least 3 months. Can you mute? We'll take the questions at the end. But now if you can just make sure that you are muting your...
Yeah, please, audience, please attendees, mute your mics. Thank you.
So these researchers were anticipating there would be a difference in the white matter between babies who were exclusively breastfed and exclusively bottle fed, but they were surprised of the intensity of the amount of difference. It's like 30% difference. And it's like dose dependent. Babies who were mixed feeding had more white matter than those who were on only formula feeding. So this explains that there's not the same health, that babies fed with artificial milk are at a greater risk of, I will not read all of this because you can see by yourself. This is what when we say this, it is the risk approach. We are comparing to the biological norm, which is breastfeeding. So we're not saying that babies who are breastfed have less infection than babies who are artificial fed, because the norm is to be breastfed. So breastfeeding is not something over the top, something ideal or optimal. It is what is meant, what has been designed for human babies. All this research has led to, and I mean, it's very, very few slides, very quickly. We can, on one part of the human milk, we can do a full conference for 3 days. Okay, so it's just really very superficial. But from this research, there was the current recommendations from WHO, UNICEF, and adopted by UAE Ministry of Health and Prevention, which are for recommending breastfeeding for 2 years or beyond. This recommendation has been also included in the law for child's right in the UAE. In this breastfeeding for 2 years, the gold standard is exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, for the first 6 months. Now, there is a priority list also established by WHO and UNICEF. So the biological norm is breastfeeding by the mother. If this is not available, the second option is not formula. Second option is what, and many of you, if you're working mothers, you know what you're trying your best to provide at least your milk expressed when you're not with your baby, or mothers of babies who are in an ICU. Then again, if this is not available, option number 3 is still not artificial milk. It is breastfeeding by another woman. I will comment about this green star. And then, yeah, okay, the green star comes now. So we have, of course, to follow infection control regulations and religious conditions, because you know very well for Muslim that it creates milk kinship. So the baby will, under certain conditions, will become the milk son of the woman who provided breast milk. Actually, this is one of the conditions in Sharjah institution for the orphans and abandoned children, Dar al-Ra'aya. Family can adopt a baby only if they create a milkship with this baby. Either the adopting women will induce lactation, or from her sisters-in-law. So this is one condition to create this bond before adopting a baby. it can be done through express breast milk, human milk. Yeah. Only when all of these options are not available, then we have to use processed animal milk. Now you have also goat's milk formula, but it is processed animal milk, and we should not use below 1 year unprocessed cow's milk, only after 1 year. So it's our duty as healthcare professionals, and we'll see at the end, the whole community, to empower mothers to give the option which is the nearest for the option number 1 for their babies. Now, is breastfeeding also beneficial for mothers? Or if we ask again about the physiology, are mothers who don't breastfeed more at risk? So you're a mother, you have been pregnant, you give birth, automatically, physiologically, the breast will produce milk after, already colostrum, but this fullness will come automatically. So it is the physiology of the mother's body to produce milk. So this overview has been of studies, meta-analysis, have been published in this journal. The reference is at the end. The health risks for mothers who do not breastfeed. Again, the aim is not to make mothers feel bad or by presenting in this way. It's just to respect the physiology, to compare to the physiology. And to make a parallel would be, the norm is to breathe air without tobacco, yeah? And so we compare the studies about lung cancer. We'll not say that non-smokers have less lung cancer than smokers, because we have to compare with the norm. So it is in this view that we are comparing mothers who do not breastfeed with mothers who breastfeed. With all, my whole passion and my whole professional activity and volunteer activity is to accompany mothers, empower them. I see them, I know some of them, it's so difficult for them. I completely acknowledge this. In the same time, we cannot hide the information, and everybody can just do what she can. And we try to be with them. So you see here, breast cancer, diabetes mellitus, hyperlipidemia, hypertension, myocardial infarction, obesity, ovarian cancer. So these are very, very important part of the disease and the pathology that we find in the community nowadays. And Pink Caravan, the aim is to reduce the incidence of breast cancer, and breastfeeding is one of the only factor that you can act on it. There was a big overview of 50,000 breast cancer cases, which were pulled together, and they found the relative risk reduction was 4.3% for every 12 months a woman breastfeeds. So maybe you will think that this is not a lot, but if you take a woman, for example, who have 5 babies, who she breastfed at least two years, so you will see it reach a significant decrease of the risk. Another study published more recently, it was a review of 32 studies. They found that parous women who had babies, they didn't compare with nulliparous, compare with women who had given birth, whoever breastfed, means even if they breastfed 1 day, they were put in this category. They compared with mothers, parous women who never breastfed, and they found they were 40% lower risk of breast cancer. And the duration is very important, because this reduction of risk doubled for breastfeeding over 12 months. They also found that the risk of cancer, estrogen receptor, and triple negative breast cancer is increased by parity, as we know, but it is reduced by breastfeeding. And the reduction, again, is more significant with longer duration of breastfeeding. That's why the epidemiologists, have calculated that nowadays, I mean, the global breastfeeding rates, as it is now in the world, are actually preventing almost 20,000 annual deaths from breast cancer all over the world. They calculated if all these women who are breastfeeding currently were not breastfeeding, this is what would happen at the global level. They also estimated there would be an additional 20,000 deaths, which could be prevented by increasing the breastfeeding duration to 12 months per child in the high-income countries and to 2 years per child in the low and middle-income countries. 1 minute. Sorry, my cat wanted to go out. So this is not negligible, and as at the level of at the public health strategy, it should be really included in each campaign to decrease risk of breast cancer. Now, this is about reversing pregnancy changes. It is so important, it is mind-blowing, and very, very few women are informed of this. And they probably would really benefit, I mean, probably would be very happy and grateful to know about this. We know that during pregnancy, there is increase of insulin resistance, and there is lipids, fat accumulation. And we know also that from the research, well-established, that up to half of women with gestational diabetes, and you know that so many nowadays have gestational diabetes, they develop diabetes mellitus type 2 within 5 years after delivery. Half of women. It's a huge number within 5 years. And many don't know it because they don't test themselves after. One way to decrease this disastrous is to breastfeed. Because as it was published in this journal in 2018, more than 1 to 3 months of lactation decreases 80% of cumulative incidence of type 2 diabetes as 5 years postpartum. So really, a woman, a mother who is continuing to breastfeed after delivery, even for a short period, will help. This will help to reverse the negative or the pregnancy changes, which were helpful at the time of pregnancy, but then they need to be reversed. Without breastfeeding, it's difficult to do this, to achieve this. And I wish that more women will know about it, more mothers. Cardiovascular health now. Because lactation involves multiple hormones, including oxytocin, prolactin, and cortisol, all of this affect blood pressure. There is a link between lactation and blood pressure, a logical link, and it had been found in the epidemiological studies. They found that mothers who never breastfed, or mothers who never breastfed, are almost 30% more likely to develop hypertension than mothers who breastfeed according to the guidelines, which is 6 months exclusive and then up till 2 years, in a cohort study. And they have more than 5 times as likely to have aortic calcification. Now, this is seen by ultrasound scanning. Than mothers who breastfed all their children for at least 3 months. See, it's not even 2 years, at least 3 months. They could find a difference in the aortic calcification. All these mothers have been, the other related risk factors were comparable, like the age or the smoking and all these other factors. Here also, in this field also, epidemiologists, statisticians have estimated that if 90% of US mothers were able to breastfeed for 1 year after every birth, 14,000 heart attacks could be prevented each year. 54,000 American women could avoid for hypertension. Thank you. Thank to mute. Thank to mute.
Please do mute, dear attendees. Please mute your.
Yeah. Okay. So I reach now the conclusion that breastfeeding is a global health issue. Improving breastfeeding rates is an urgent public health priority, both for low-income and high-income countries. Because breastfeeding has a significant impact on infant and maternal health, on short-term and long-term health. And this impact includes the chronic non-communicable diseases which are affecting the UAE population. It's become a public health priority, like diabetes and coronary heart disease. But mothers cannot do this alone. We cannot put the responsibility all on the shoulders of the mother, and it's because she needs a lot of support. And it's unfair to say she didn't want, or she's whatever negative judgment. If somebody didn't go through it, the lack of information and the lack of support, you cannot judge. So we really need to improve the support for mothers. This is as I told you, this is the international symbol for breastfeeding there is some meaning. This part is for the mother, this part for the baby. This is to symbolize 6 months exclusive breastfeeding and to continue until 2 years or beyond with homemade fresh complementary food. These 4 parts cannot be held together without the not here. You agree? This is the core of it. Cannot exist without this core. And this core is the support from the husband, from the family, from the healthcare facilities, which need to have lactation clinics dedicated with skilled expertise, skilled support, lactation clinics. Need support in the study places, students in university, in the workplaces, in the community. Sharjah has already done a lot of things here because Sheikh Sultan has decreed Sharjah to become a baby-friendly emirate. So there is a lot of initiatives ongoing. Still, it needs a lot of to continue and to upgrade the support. And in the questions, so it's really breastfeeding baby's health, mother's health, but mothers cannot do it without support. This is the references. So now I'm open to any questions, any comment you have.
Dear attendees, if anyone have any question for Dr. Evelyn, you can type it in your chat box, please. Dr. Evelyn, I would like to ask you a question if you don't mind.
Yeah.
How breastfeeding can reduce the risk of breast cancer?
By which way you mean?
I mean, how breastfeeding can
Yes, the
reduce.
mechanism. Yeah.
Yes.
Probably it's a main explanation would be the reduction of exposure to estrogens. Because during breastfeeding, there is the ovaries are less working and there is so less exposure to estrogen. Some are saying it's maybe also because like it is the, how do you say, it is the physiological purpose of this organ is to produce milk after a pregnancy. So when you change the, we're not fulfilling this purpose, there is consequences. But the main thing is exposure to estrogen. And we know that women, the more women had, the less women have period with high level of estrogen. So the more they are pregnant or breastfeeding, this reduces their risk of breast cancer. So breastfeeding is also in this picture.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We will wait for
Mai is asking about the services provided by the healthcare system to increase breastfeeding awareness. Okay, actually from long time, breastfeeding awareness is there. If you normally, you have, especially in Sharjah, you have antenatal classes about breastfeeding. My main, this is important, but if you have only the breastfeeding awareness, but you don't have the support, it's like an empty promise. Because if you expose like this small information I presented to you in the beginning, I'm sure if any pregnant woman sees this, the difference between formula and artificial milk, and of course she wants to breastfeed her baby. Every mother wants to provide this to her baby. So it's not so difficult to convince mothers. The awareness is and also like from the religion point of view, it's also something which is encouraged a lot. The issue, what I think the main problem is there is no support when, if a mother encounters any difficulty after delivery, and you do know it can happen, difficult with the latch, or because separation from mother and baby, there is less milk, and many issues can happen. Nipple pain because the baby has a tongue tie. If you cannot help, if the mother doesn't receive the skilled support at that time, of course she will begin to introduce artificial milk, or she will even stop breastfeeding, and she will feel very bad about it. She will feel very, very sad, and she will feel guilty when it's not her fault. It's the fault of the healthcare system who didn't provide enough skilled support. So that's why it's not the awareness. I don't think breastfeeding awareness is the main, or it's not so difficult to, it's important. Because if the mother she encounters difficulties, and if she thinks it doesn't matter, it is the same as artificial milk, then she will not be committed, or she will not have the strength or the courage to go through, for example, the management plan to overcome her difficulties. So she needs to know it makes a difference, but it's not enough to know this. She needs to also be supported. How do you answer mother when she stated that she got pregnant even though she had breastfed her baby? Yeah, of course. This is statistic. What I presented you is like public health perspective, and you have it's statistic in the general population. So when we say the risk is decreased, it doesn't mean it becomes zero risk. Yeah. So it does happen during breastfeeding, and we should be aware, like if any mass which is it's not going, or we need to be aware of it. But at the population level, it does make a difference. And her mother had breast cancer. If her mother has breast cancer at a young age, and her aunt and her grandmother, she might have the gene BRCA gene. So it's much more difficult to decrease to reverse this gene has a big impact on her risk of breast cancer. if I give you my example, my mother had breast cancer, but after menopause, I could, alhamdulillah, I could breastfeed my babies like almost 12 years of breastfeeding. So if you multiply by 4% per year, I almost decrease my risk of breast cancer by 50%. But this is statistic. It means not by 100%. Okay, so this is like this book of statistics. But about the GDM also, the gestational diabetes, it is so important to reverse this with breastfeeding. And it's not well known. This message is not, the awareness about it is not there. I often see, I tell mothers in the lactation clinic, I feel from our experience, mothers can achieve their goals when there's 3 circles who come together. Or you see these circles, you have one zone where 3 circles come together. This is the zone of success, of achievement. She needs herself to be committed, she wants to do it. Second, she needs to have support in her family. If her husband wants like mahshi every day and the house to be spot clean and I mean no change in his life when she gets babies, it becomes very difficult. She needs the support. Or her mother-in-law is telling, do all the housework, or you don't have enough milk, let me give the babies a bottle. So you need the mother to know it matters, the family to be supportive, and then to find the skilled health professional to help her. And many mothers, unfortunately, they don't have these three conditions together. And my heart is really hurting for them. And I hope we should do something. But we are we're trying our best. BFFP counselor, yes. Yes, mother, I spoke about the campaign, but also Breastfeeding France is doing mother-to-mother support is very important. It really can make a difference. When the mother feels low, she needs some support, she needs to call somebody, she needs to rent a good breast pump. Breastfeeding France is providing this. Monica? Yes, the IQ level, this is from long time. All the studies, there is different in the how to say, the range of, the amount of points of IQ. But all the studies are going in the same direction. That's like it is lower for babies who are not breastfed. The explanation is the quality of fat which is in the milk as specific for human brain. You cannot have the same fats in the cow's milk. Okay, so there is evidence and many studies, and even imagining I don't know if you were there at the beginning of the presentation when I showed the MRI study on 3 groups of babies, and they found 30% difference in the amount of the white matter. They found also studies show the indifference IQ level at even up till teenage and adulthood. Welcome, Louis Mai. No other questions?
So that was end of our session for today. I would like to thank Dr. Evelyn, especially thank you so much, Dr. Evelyn, for this very useful and informative presentation for all the women and especially the mothers. Thank you so much for the participants who attended the session. I would like to remind that for the certificate, you can click the link which was provided previously in the chat box. Thank you so much, Dr. Evelyn, and inshallah
Jamila, yes. I just want to answer one question about exclusive breastfed babies who have eczema.
Sure.
This is because of the cow's milk that the mother is something, he's reacting of something the mother is eating. Usually the main culprit is cow's milk that the mother takes. Many mothers think that, or the neighbor tell them, you have to drink a lot of milk to make milk. And this, the protein of the cow's milk, if the mother has a leaky gut, and we all have leaky gut nowadays, it goes from her blood to the baby's milk, and it affects the baby's milk like this. So it's, yeah, it does happen. I agree with you. But usually it goes when the mother stop. We have to find which food is causing this. But these babies, when they're exposed to direct to formula, of course, it will be worse. Okay. Okay, Jamila.
Okay, Dr. Evelyn, thank you so much. As I mentioned, it's a very precious information and very, useful information. Thank you so much. Inshallah, we will be looking forward to collaborate in the future. Thank you, Doctora.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all the attendees. Thank you.